everybody, I know a lot about ducks. I know a lot more about ducks than some of the other people, Audubon or anything like that. But with the duck, it's a lot of paddling under the water, right? It's normal on top of water with duck. But there's a lot of movement and a lot of paddling, so maybe it's that sort of iceberg. It could be like iceberg. Bowen did a great job with that.
This is Good One. I am Jesse David Fox, senior writer at Vulture and author of Comedy Book. My guest today is James Austin Johnson. We talk about developing his version of a Donald Trump impression filled with tangents and digressions about pop culture minutia that got him noticed and eventually cast on Saturday Night Live in 2021. He joined the cast 3 months before his son was born, and he's been fighting colds on the show ever since. We also discussed developing pitch-perfect singing impressions to do with Ariana Grande, while at the same time fighting to not be categorized as just an impressionist. That said, James does do many impressions on this episode, some that have yet to make it to SNL. So here is James Johnson. I'm here with James Austin Johnson. Thank you for joining me.
This is very exciting. This is very exciting to be here at Vulture, which is arguably my favorite vertical of the New York Magazine family.
We'll clip that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So what is the funniest thing that happened to you this week?
I've had a big bump on the back of my neck, and I haven't known what it is. And I've done a lot of Googling about sebaceous cysts and tumors and stuff like that.
Of course.
It kept getting bigger and kept hurting more. And I finally went to an urgent care near me. And I went into the urgent care, and a real doctor was there. He came in and he said, "You look familiar." And I was like, "All right, I'm going to talk about SNL real quick." He's like, "I'm Sarah Sherman's uncle." I was like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "Well, what do you got?" And I was like, "I got this big nasty bump." And he's like, "Probably an ingrown hair. Let's take a look at it." So he numbs it up and he cuts it open, and it's oozing pus and it's oozing oil. And he's like, "I was right. It's a pimple." And then he goes, "This is Sarah's type of shit. We should be rolling on this." Sarah get a big kick out of this. So she'd love this. He's digging poison and pus and piss and shit out of my neck hole. Yeah, it's an abscess. Sorry, I'm doing a meaner version of the voice, but it was like my friend Sarah.
It's like a Chekhov thing where you introduce Sarah into the story. You're like, something gross better happen at the end.
I know, right? Yeah, you know that the gun's gonna go off and that it's gonna spray out confetti and human sputum and effluvia. That's a word that I've had to learn in my friendship with Sarah.
So we're going to talk about SNL. It's going to be one of those times.
Of course.
And as these things go, there will be people who will have never heard the story of how you got this show. But in preparing, I've heard this story 10, 15 times. In this circumstance, I usually ask people, can you tell the story as fast as possible? In an attempt to kill two birds with one stone, could you possibly tell as fast as possible as Donald Trump?
Sure. There's this guy, James, and he's just sitting around LA. He's not doing anything, right? He gets some lady pregnant. And then he's reading Keith Richards' life. Keith, they call it Keith Richards. And he's reading Keith Richards' life. He's getting sunburned. He's got the COVID pot belly, ate too much Hawaiian food or whatever it was. He's firing off tapes. He says, "I don't think I'm going to get in, honey. I don't think it's going to happen." They drag you around. They see you once, and it's a badge, right? You think of it as a badge, comedy badge to audition, and then they cut you loose, and it's going to be right back to Taco Bell audition. It's going to be right back, honey. I'll be the primary parent. I'll be auditioning, Dad. I'll be right back. And then he gets it. He's got to go, and he's got to do it all, and he does it all, and he does it so good. Everybody likes it, and nobody knows anything about it. And it all there, and they all did it. And you look at Japan, you look at China, we are getting our ass kicked. And nobody knows, and only I can do it. Only me. And his wife was 7 months pregnant. That's a big part of the story. And Lorne was like, "You're going to wear wigs?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know if I got it. I hope I get it." Same shit that happens just about every time, but in slightly different permutation. That's a new word I learned, permutation. We love to say permutation. And then it's gone, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. And so we say, "I'm happy for a consistent job because I'm a father. So I'm happy to have a paycheck. And we're trying, right? We're trying. Maybe he's not the biggest one on the show, but he's trying very hard. The duck, everybody, I know a lot about ducks. I know a lot more about ducks than some of the other people, Audubon or anything like that. But with the duck, it's a lot of paddling under the water, right? It's normal on top of water with duck. But there's a lot of movement and a lot of paddling, so maybe it's that sort of iceberg. It could be like iceberg. Bowen did a great job with that. But it's very much like still waters run very fast with the duck legs.
Great.
If you've ever had that duck confit, a lot of people say it's too tough. A lot of people mess it up. You're supposed to leave it a little raw, the duck breast. That's why they score it, right? You've heard of scoring? I know a lot more about scoring duck breasts than some of the other people. Than Eddie Wong, and maybe even more than Ivan Ramen.
Is it hard to stop when you just get on a...
It's a fun thing to lock into, and it is fully, it is hard to stop. I very consciously have gates now for it.
So let's talk about a specific one, which is the last one you did.
Yeah.
The last episode was the mid-season finale, as we used to call it now. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. It was the Christmas epised. Ariana's hosting. I'm sure you're still reeling from Dijon's performance from the week before.
Oh, it was so sick. Amber Kaufman was there, who I knew first from the Dirty Projectors, which David Longstreth of the Dirty Projectors is one of the voices that I have pitched over and over again to the show, always to maybe not.
Can I hear it?
To make you the sunrise.
Spot on.
I live in a new construction home. That man is a friend of mine now, and I just love his music. I love his music. And he has such an iconic voice that I can't not sing in it. I have a list of 150 probably voices that
cool. The last 10 minutes, we're just going to go through all of them and be like, do that one, do that one.
Because it's just it's fun for me, but this is my art. It's more like I don't know.
All right, we'll get into the general. So this episode happens. There are two main sketches that you're heavily involved in.
Yeah.
So generally, going into the week, how are you feeling? How do you feel as a cast member? Like, I'm probably going to be on the air every show.
Yeah.
Which is different than almost everyone I've ever talked to in the history of being on SNL than the Weekend Update guys.
Oh, it didn't even feel that way for me on my first one when they were like, "Do you have a Biden?" And I just sent off a short 10-second tape of where my Biden was at that moment, which was probably not ready. But I'd also started reading a lot of books about SNL at the time when I first got hired, and I knew that not being ready is one of the flavors of the show.
Yeah,
and so I just embraced it. And I try to do that pretty frequently. But yeah, I mean, the cold open aspect is a very privileged position to be in. I don't take it lightly, and it has weird pressure on it that I think with my comedy philosophy, I don't know, it's just thrilling because it is a space where risks can pay off big or, fall flat, and it has more of a athletic kind of feeling to it. And I hosted shows in LA for years, and I just did that for so long, and to the point that the thought of opening up a show like ours is just it's more just like the challenge is just fun rather than a crushing kind of anticipation. It's liberating.
Considering, what are your Monday and Tuesdays like? Do you pitch much on Monday? Do you Tuesday, like, how late are you staying up?
I came to the show with a woman who was really pregnant, and then we had a baby, and that baby is a toddler now. And so I think I have a little bit different of a health and sleep concern from some of my castmates. I'm a little bit more focused on balance than I am on like
sheer number of numbers up awake
so
hours.
I try to really focus on making sure that I have my mindset on what I really want to do when it comes to like Monday and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday have been the hardest days for me. It's so scary. The blue skies brainstorming part is terrifying for me. And I always just worry that I'm betting on the wrong horse, or, like I said, my obsession with doing things that are of limited general interest that has caused a lot of my pursuits to like, maybe flame out quicker.
How are you not sick all the time?
I am sick all the time.
Then follow-up question, does the show do something for people who are sick? Because in my head,
Yes.
Because it's like you have had a toddler exactly the time period in which you've been on the show, which you already are up late. In my head, you should have me sneezing on air most episodes.
No. The
Or at least
adrenaline
definitely.
magically when it's showtime and the lights are on and it's time to go. And I know this from my years in musical theater growing up too. It's like when you are doing the performance, it all goes away. No, you're coughing on people while you're blocking things. You're, if I don't get enough sleep, I will get sick. And I think I'm at the point just in my maturity as a man that my brain is not so consumed by as much frivolous thinking late at night that I can kind of start to get to sleep now. I'm not tortured in the way that I used to be about every little thing. I really don't know how anyone does the show any other way than just constant green juices, 19 hours sleep a night, and a free mind. Because it's the NBA or something. You just have to keep yourself in good physical condition. And it's like, I need to keep a harmonious body balance because there's things I want to do on Saturday night at 1 a.m.
Is that something you learned like earlier seasons where you like
burning the candle at both ends? Yeah, when I had a newborn, it was impossible. I was, not managing stress effectively. I would get done with the show and then be trying to go to sleep at, 5 a.m. and then he'd be crying and we had a newborn. I didn't know what the crying meant. It's so great to know now that he either needed milk or to be changed, and those are the only two things it could possibly be. But at one point I didn't know that. Why is he crying? Is he mad about something? Did I say something weird?
Yeah, he said something
during Miss Rachel.
So you do the cold open.
Yeah.
The thing about the cold opens, which I think is always challenging about them, is the sketch often does not have a central propulsion that, like, there's a setting and then you're talking and you have information, but your character does not grow or change or nothing really often, especially like in one like this. I'm just kind of giving a speech about different topics related.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that you have to think about performance of, like, how do I bring a certain sort of arc to this talking so that it feels...
when we're putting together Trump stuff, there is the needs of an SNL Cold Open, which is the framing of an event, of a press event, or a real speech he gave, or there is the aspect where we are recreating something that happened, and that is one wing of it, and then the other half of it would be kind of like content, right? So we have like framing and a set and all of that kind of big picture thinking that I think is happening that I'm not as involved in that because I'm running around doing all kinds of other writing and sketches and stuff. I'm also a cast member on the show.
Yeah, I know. I've heard.
In addition to my Donald
research,
Trump
I
duties,
learned that you do other things
I
on the
also
show.
do other stuff on the show. I'm getting texts kind of throughout the week from head writers just being like, here's what we think it is. What's in the Trump voice that you kind of are thinking about this week? And I remember there was a couple weeks where I was just obsessed with Trump talking about piece of cake moving. The big pink trucks all throughout Manhattan.
Yes.
I think it was around when the Zoran election. And so it was a little bit more New York-y on the show. And I felt a little bit more like, oh, I can do some New York inside baseball because this is kind of the time to do it. So it was a lot of like, piece of cake moving. I'm sending like voice memos where I'm like, piece of cake moving. You see the pink trucks everywhere and it says cake. You think there's going to be cake in there. And then you open it up and it's just two Balkan guys throwing your lamps around at top speed, shouting in Russian or whatever it is, and they just pick up another jingly box like it's kindergartners at Christmas. And they're just slinging your Legos all around that truck. But we love piece of cake. We like the other one. We like... I don't know. It's always that kind of stuff. And sometimes I'll send like a 20-minute voice memo to one of the writers and just be like,
so you'll be doing
put this
something
on
else
while you're writing.
And then you'll just be like, they're just like, do Trump for 20 minutes and we'll see if there's a thing in here.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't want me to do it for 20 minutes. I'm sure they want me to give them perfect nuggets that are ready to be placed into a final draft document. But I think a lot of the fun is the meandering and the finding it, and I I really enjoy that part of it. And then we just kind of keep like a fresco or something. We just keep adding layers of color all the way up to the live show because, obviously Cold Open wants to be as up to the minute as possible. Sometimes there's a big news story on Friday, Saturday morning, and things change around. So it kind of keeps getting painted over and layers keep building up. And so hopefully the Metal Gear Solid thing that I thought was so funny on Monday night survives all the way to air, and sometimes it gets taken out, and sometimes I'm like, I want that back in because I want a few things to like not be home runs.
Yeah.
Like I want some risk in there because that feels so fun to live through for me. I love an element of risk in the cold opens. I grew up watching the SNL Cold Opens, wanting to be a part of the adult world. I wanted to understand what Daryl Hammond's Al Gore was so funny and why my parents' friends at church thought it was so funny. And I remember doing Daryl Hammond's Al Gore at adults, trying to get a little bit of that good feeling that you get from performing for people. I've always wanted to be 36. And I'm very lucky that my time has come. You were talking about an arc to it. Yeah, it's a character performance, and I'm always kind of thinking of it primarily as a character performance. It's like, this is one of the SNL sketches. This is one of the silly characters in a wig. I'm sort of leery of a cogent thought getting communicated in Cold Open. I want the effect of it to be a statement, but like moment to moment and joke to joke, I would like it to be kind of just a random assemblage of things, because that's what it's like listening to it.
I want to break down what the voice is, Frank Caliendo style. For those who don't know, Frank Caliendo, a master impressionist, will very specifically explain how he does impressions.
I'm a little bit afraid of dissecting it too much because I wonder if I even really understand everything that's happening. But I definitely have to teach impressions to other cast members from time to time, and that is an exciting thing. I remember someone heard me do Elon Musk and wanted to know what I was doing because they were creeped out by it. Elon had hosted the show before my time, and there are a lot of people at the show still who were there when he hosted. And there are a lot of fraught feelings in the air about the guy. I mean, deservedly. So I was just doing my Elon, which is not funny. It's just like what I think he sounds like. I don't have like an idea of how to make the character funny just yet, and it's not my responsibility currently. But I remember someone was asking me how I do it, and I was like, okay, what is this? It's like a South African accent. How would I describe how I do a terrible South African accent? It's like, it's British, but it's also Arnold. There's also this like, you're venturing further east in Europe from England. The accent has some of the contours of something that is more Germanic. So it's a little bit Austrian too. So basically, basically what we're talking about is, it's like, I don't know. It's not like a character that I have figured out at all. You're making me fire off some half-cocked stuff.
But it's interesting because it is almost like,
I was trying to help someone else find a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have a bit here yet, but here's kind of what I think I'm doing in my throat. And here's how I'm kind of holding my mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, you look back in the last one, there's the Venezuela joke, which is like, we're going to invade Venezuela. Metal.
Shout out Oh Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no denying that Oh Hello and my love of Oh Hello has crept into some of my Donald Trump stuff. I really try to play him like a New Yorker.
Yes.
That's who he sounds like to me.
Yes. It's the same thing. You literally did it when you said like, and you have audition like that as a sort of Oh Hello.
Dropping articles.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things like that I've noticed over the years that he's very much an Oh Hello guy, and in a different world he would have come out at the Broadway show for the tuna.
So like that Metal Gear Solid joke was yours.
Yeah. And I asked for it back in. Honestly, hoping that it would connect live. But happy that it got what it did. Because I don't know, because it just feels kind of like what I do with that guy.
So then when he does invade Venezuela or whatever, and you hear about it,
he ended up doing that, right?
What happens to you?
I don't think about him. Well, let me say this. I really am only just trying to be funny. Lots of different people have done lots of different versions of Trump comedy for decades. And And my mission with it is just to make it funny, even after it's kind of reached an oversaturation, I guess, in the comedy world. Sort of like nothing's better than a Michael McDonald impression or a Christopher Walken, but everyone has one and everyone's done it, and maybe there's nothing left to discover. You know what I mean? I really am trying to find more funny bits in something that has, kind of been done a lot. That's what kind of led me around to the more, I guess, absurdist version that maybe I'm doing. His charm and popularity are extremely clear to me and have always been very clear to me. And I've leaned more into his charm because I think he's a hilarious and charming person.
Yeah.
And as I said, his political actions and his behavior, I feel entirely neutral about.
Sure.
I have no opinion about him in that way. But I do find him to be kind of just like an irresistible personality. And so I've leaned into that for sure.
It's almost like people in their impressions would ignore the parts of him that was charming or funny as a way of making whatever satirical point they were. Your impression seems so much more accurate because it is funny.
He's a popular politician.
Yeah.
And I think that was an element of Trump comedy that maybe was missing for a while.
Yeah.
Was like, well, no, this is speaking to a lot of people. I remember when January 6th, when we say January 6th,
Yes.
the January 6th that happened, when that happened, which I feel entirely neutral about, he was telling everybody to go home. That was him covering his tracks. And so I did a video of him talking about, it was the way he was saying that January 6th was over. I did one about Pokemon where I was like, it's over when you beat the Elite Four, not when you catch them all. And it was this way that I could emotionally kind of talk about what he was doing in that moment, but it was about this other abstract thing, and I thought that was just a really funny way to express myself about it. Are you familiar with the games journalist Jason Schreier?
No.
He's the Jesse David Fox of gaming journalists. And then this games journalist was kind of covering it or tweeted about it or something, but he was basically saying, I think I have finally learned what the fans of Donald Trump love about him. Like, I watched James Austin Johnson say this thing that I agree with about Pokemon games, which is that, yes, they're over when you beat the final strongest trainers. They're not over when you collect them all. He was saying the things I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And he's saying them in the coolest, funniest way you've ever heard anything.
Yeah. No one's ever talked like this
No one
before.
has ever spoken in this way. And it is so fun. He talks like me. No, he doesn't talk like you. He talks like Donald Trump. He talks... He's Kendrick Lamar or something. It's no one else can talk this way and say these words this way. That's what makes it so entertaining.
Do you think it's something you got because you're from the South, where a lot of people maybe were not, who are doing these takes on him?
I don't know. I'm very grateful for the background that I've had because there's always been a little bit of a dissonance or a disconnect on the coasts, maybe. I have to describe the denomination that I'm from to people over and over in LA and here because they just have no context for it. And I don't begrudge them that. I personally am not trying to get more into evangelicalism than I already did. Some would say I'm running pell-mell in the opposite direction, but I'm really grateful to have that context. It feels like a really important part of what I do.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched me for an hour, it's not all impressions. That's a smaller part of it. A lot of it is me exploring country music and the sort of Christianity from the South and how that ties into family and all that stuff. I think that those are really the themes of my stuff are that kind of Americana. And so I'm happy to be someone who represents that.
So in the last Cold Open, you say cross the tree. I know I'm not supposed to say that out loud, but it helps me.
Yeah.
And that aspect, which is there's this also meta postmodern thing that you do that will periodically. I've been fascinated because the other ones will be a scene will happen and you'll freeze the scene and you'll talk in front of the scene, but then comment on the cast members and be like, new cast members, they got to just stand still. And it's like, look at Lynn, he's laughing, whatever. Almost like Bugs Bunny. He doesn't adhere to the rules of a sketch.
Right.
Where did that come from?
The first time we did it, it might have come from the fact that we already just had that set built. I think we were going to do another Passover sketch. And at some point, somebody was like, it may have been Lorne, said, hey, we have this Passover set. Why not make that where Trump is or something? And then we had to like put that puzzle together. It was really fun. And I just remember that being kind of an electric little cold open. And we did it at Dress. And remember, I think Streeter, one of the head writers, was like, this is really fun and you can have a little fun with it. And I think you should make a joke about, whoever it was. I can't remember who.
Yeah, there was one about Mikey where you made fun of that he had to do this in this sketch.
Yeah, he had to keep that pose or something. I think Streeter was like, if you feel like you can, throw that out there. Because I think I was just standing around on set making fun of people as Trump. In some of the president's stuff, it seems like there's a little bit of a room to play because it's a locked off shot, right? And it's a monologue. And, I think every once in a while I go, what's 3 seconds here? If
Was it written across the tree or did you to say it out loud?
That one we added in between Dress and Air because at Dress Trump was interrupting the Survivor finale. And we had a whole Survivor set, and we had Ashley and Chloe and Sarah as Survivor contestants. We had Mikey as Jeff Probst, and it was cutting between Trump's address in the hallway and interrupting Survivor. And then they cut the Survivor element between Dress and Air. That probably shrunk us down from like 6 minutes down to like 4. Everybody was kind of like, it's all on you now because it's not, we haven't been rehearsing this as just a Trump monologue, but we need to make this a moment. And this is the Christmas episode. I think I got some sense from Lorne that he really wanted something special. And I was just worried that it maybe wasn't special enough as written. And so I think we kind of had a huddle with me and the head writers that were there. And we were like, all right, how can we make this more playful, more fun? And how can we pad it out with performance? We thought of hugging the tree, and then it was like, oh, I should say cross to tree. I know that is an old joke, and like you've heard that a million times, someone reading out the action on the cue card. And I'm very concerned with keeping up with his mental state. And he is definitely more visibly tired and more visibly kind of befuddled.
During the first term, there were a lot of conversations about political satire and impressions of Trump and what is it supposed to do and what does it mean and are they doing this and does it help or are they whatever. There were just conversations.
Yeah.
You're in it.
Yeah.
What do you feel like the audience gets out of it beyond they are laughing at a thing, but like in so much as political satire is a societal thing that exists?
Yeah. In American society, because we have freedom of speech.
Yes. And yes.
I'm worried that people don't read enough. For one thing. And I'm happy to be a part of whatever way cultural awareness flows towards people. If I'm a part of someone becoming more aware of the machinations of our elected leaders, the magazine reader in me is happy. I needed that at one point in my life. I was a very unaware and sheltered young kid, and comedy, Daily Show clips, late night clips, SNL were my window to the world of adults and the world of influence and wealth. I did not know who the newsmakers were. And comedy led me to having that context. And so I think that's hopefully one thing that's happening with it. But I really am not focused on converting anyone or teaching anyone because I really can't say anything about the character of Donald Trump or his fitness for any of the roles he's played in our lives that he hasn't already said himself. What more could I say in the negative about Donald Trump that he has not celebrated with fanfare of trumpets daily? The things that I don't like about him are the things that people love about him. So, and the things that I love about him are the things that people don't like about him because I feel entirely neutral about the man, and I hold him like a diamond in my mind. I'll say this, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but this is a personal experience that I had. I remember when I have played Donald Trump during Joe Biden's presidency, which was this beautiful dream we all had, and I remember that when I would play Donald Trump, I would feel our audience sigh at seeing Donald Trump walk out for a monologue at the front of the show. I would feel the New Yorkers in the room. Ugh. I would hear ugh from people as they saw me walk out in makeup. And towards the end of Biden's presidency. And in my head, I remember thinking, like, please take this man seriously. He is still extremely popular. But there was a time when many people were convinced he was defeated. And I remember that feeling coming from people when I would be doing Trump comedy, coming from, I think, more from liberals than conservatives, although I perform all over the country. I remember people kind of feeling like we defeated Voldemort. He's gone, you know? And it made me want to do it harder because I was like, you don't understand. He is growing more powerful than you could possibly imagine. I think that's where the red state connection comes in for me. And I think that's where the being from Tennessee comes in for me, is that I do go home a lot and I do take the temperature of that part of things in America probably more frequently than some of the other, I don't know, people. And so I have always been very aware of his charisma. Even when he was defeated, I was like, he can come back so fast and so hard. And I've always wanted to illustrate his charm to people who don't take it seriously.
Yeah. So before this season, there was a lot happened. Colbert got canceled for reasons that it's not for us to say at this moment. Jimmy Kimmel got it suspended for reasons that seem much more clear for why it was, but definitely Trump related. And then also Charlie Kirk was shot. And I think everyone in the orbit of talking about politics at all probably had a day or week or more where they're like, what should I do? Whatever. What was it like for you? How did you feel? How do you feel now?
When I'm on break and when I'm not making the show, I literally don't have to think about what I think about this. When Trump met Zoran and was just so gaga over him, we weren't on that week. We were on break. And I remember getting texts from people being like, this would be such a good cold open. I'm like, it's going to be old news by the time I'm back there. It's not going to be what we do. We're going to do something else, whatever happened then. And that's pretty great and helps me not be totally consumed with the world of bummer politics and every little last thing that happens, because I really only have to think about the cold open that we're going to do the weeks that we're shooting, and I don't even really do Trump voice unless you ask me to. And again, it's one character that I do. It's a character that a lot of people have a personal investment with for a lot of reasons. But I'm always just thinking about my own comedy and what I think is funny. And the Trump character is just sort of a character that's sort of taken off. I'm a huge, huge, huge Dana Carvey fan. And getting to work with him and Mike Myers was huge for me. And they both approach SNL different ways. Mike Myers, when I was doing cold opens with him, his papers were like covered in notes and highlights and all of this sort of like hieroglyphics all over it that meant something specific to him, and he kind of had it rolled up in a scroll, and he'd done a lot to his papers of lines, and that was amazing to see up close and then get to like rehearse the scenes with him and see like the journey of that just as a comedy fan. And then Dana works the way that I do, which was fully messily just sort of riffing in the moment and trying to keep things on the level and trying to keep things on a swivel and making it really about the moment that actually matters and trying to have as much fun in that moment. So when I did the Oasis sketch with Sarah, where the Weekend Update, that was a similar thing because Sarah's more in the Mike Myers world of like wants to have it all figured out. And I just kind of want to.
So you feel like in those moments, you're just like, I am not doing the show. I will feel about the show when I'm at the show.
I try not to think about that heavy stuff when we're not in production, because what can I do? What can I really do with it? And thank God I'm not really on Twitter or Instagram anymore. I'm not releasing my thoughts constantly like I used to. My Donald Trump character is my contribution to the discourse. And for better or for worse. And if it doesn't say enough in one direction for you, I'm sorry, but this is my thought about this current moment. And I love that I have 75 cold opens that if you really wanted to get in there, you could determine my philosophy about this person. I think it's in there.
Yeah.
But I'd rather it be implicit rather than a message I'm sending,
We've done it. We'll never talk about Trump again for the rest of the interview. So the other big sketch was Random Christmas Duet Spectacular.
Sure,
which
yeah.
You did 3 impressions at. This is a SNL sketch that often will happen, which is like, we found a way to contain as many impressions as we can in this thing, and you are a person who can do impressions. How are you brought into a thing like that? Are they go like, we thought you should do these, or they're sort of like, we're doing a musical thing? How is it brought to you?
This is interesting. I mean, I wanted to do something with Ariana where we both got to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I came into the week being like, I want to write something. It was with Jake Nordwin, Mike DeCenzo, and Dan Bola. And I hadn't worked with those guys enough in my mind, and I love them. And I was like, I want to do a sketch with these guys, and I want to do one of these impressions parades. We call them parades. Sometimes I call it an inventory. If it's just like if we're just rooting through a desk and pulling things out. Those are always kind of loosely made up of things that we have seen each other do at the table that didn't go. You know what I mean? Because it's just ephemera. And you can't make an entire sketch out of any one of those things. And some of them, like the Cameron Winter, which weirdly got picked up because he's such a buzzy name right now. There wasn't really much to that. I just was like, oh, I like how he kind of sings like Rufus Wainwright and Tom York and some of the indie rock adjacent singer-songwriters that I love from the 2000s. Me and that guy probably listened to a lot of the same music growing up. So I was just trying to find some thing to do right there. And I'm always pushing to do singing impressions of people that nobody cares about at our show. People that do have lots of fans, and I know because I go to those shows and I see them and I'm there with them, but harder to do on broadcast television because it needs to connect with so many people to justify being there.
Was that one a hard sell? Like they are now have been announced to be on the show, but I was shocked that that got
to
on.
See Karen Winter get on. I'm always pitching stuff that people have no context for or don't care about. And Ariana Grande had come to the show before. Her approach to impressions felt like mine, where it's like, oh, you love getting to be this person for a second.
Were there a few people that you pitched for this, or you sort of had an idea of this mix?
Let me see. I have a note in my phone of like the earliest form of this had some people that we did not do. Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Dave Longstreth and Annie Lennox, Cameron Winter, and Dua Lipa. This is just me throwing down names that I was like, maybe she has one of these. And I knew that I wouldn't have a whole lot of her time, so I was just throwing out names for her, and the other writers were throwing out names for her. And we landed on Christina Aguilera, which was in until right up until we shot. It was taken out. Maybe she didn't want to do Christina because of a vocal concern of preserving her voice, and I respect her for that. But that did take us back to the drawing board to be like, okay, so maybe it's Katy Perry and Bob Dylan. And after you've already got the context of the Bing Crosby and David Bowie, the next thing you see can be a little ridiculous. It can be Bob Dylan and Katy Perry in an astronaut suit.
What's it
She
like?
killed it.
The Andrea Bocelli.
Andrea Bocelli.
You have to sing so good, seemingly, to a person who doesn't know singing. I'm like, you guys are singing really good singing right now.
Yeah, and we were singing live.
What was that? Yeah, what was that like doing it? You are comedian. Obviously you have a singing background, but she is famous #1 singer.
Number one pop star, famous person in the entire universe.
It's a very SNL conundrum to be put in. But I'm curious what it was like for you.
When these guys come and do the show with us, they're a cast member and we're all in the same boat, and that's a great equalizer. It's like, I was just not thinking about the fact that I'm singing with the most famous singer ever. I was like, we're gonna have fun playing the comedy of this sketch. We're doing the same thing here. But we had done a version of it a year before, and I don't know enough about music to really talk about this, and we should really be interviewing David Foster, who wrote it. But it sounds like to me that Celine is singing in Andrea's key. And so Celine doesn't have a super, super, super demanding Celine part. I think in the prayer song, I think it was mostly written as an Andrea Bocelli in Andrea's key, and how can Celine add to that? That's what I've heard that song a billion times now. That's what I think is happening. So I knew that Ariana was going to crush it no matter what, because she gets to color it in with all the Celineisms that she wants. And if I fuck that up, I mean, it's really not going to be anything, because it either needs to be all about Ariana and her spectacularness, or if I'm inserting me singing opera into this, like, I need to do it well.
Yeah.
So I just remember doing the things that you do to keep your voice well. I was trying to get rest and drink a lot of water and not drink alcohol and be prepared in a different way. And I can do Trump with a full-ass sinus infection because his voice sounds like a monster. So I can be a monster, and I can be in terrible shape to do a bunch of the other, especially the septuagenarian characters that I'm always doing. I love old men's voices, but you're putting junk on them to simulate those things. And with Andrea Bocelli, I'm like, I'm going to have to like strip away all of the affectations that I do to just get to, you know what the impression of Andrea Bocelli is? It's singing correctly.
Yeah.
Do you know what Andrea Bocelli sounds like? It sounds like when someone sings correctly. The first time we did it at the table, it was like a diaper commercial. Dan Bulla had written this impressions parade that was like, you know how diapers have characters that your kids care about, like Elsa and the Hulk? I'm the one looking at the diaper. Why isn't it a character I care about? So here are diapers featuring Neil Young and Bob Dylan and all. That was the original thing that we wrote years ago. When she came back to the show, and I didn't even bring up the Celine and Andrea thing. She brought it up. She was like, why don't we try that again? Because that was fun. And I was like, that was fun. So I was like, okay, I have a job to do, is to be ready for this. And luckily it all came together, and I think I had practiced that song enough in the interim. And
it was going to be live?
I wanted it to be live. I remember how fun it felt to do it at the table and get pretty close to nailing it at the table. And I was like, well, if we can do it at the table, then we can do it live. That's how I always feel. It's like, I don't pitch a whole lot of pre-tapes really, because I'm like, this should be in front of people. I mean, that's what really, the adrenaline of doing the live show is what really gives you the extra oomph to do this well. I also want this to be the weird moment that it was at the table, where it was like, it was funny, but it was also like this theater feeling. It was
people singing live, which is a different thing when you're live.
Where if you've ever listened to someone who's a great singer sing live, your heart's in your chest. Like, I mean, your heart's always in your chest, but your heart's in your throat, you know? And I wanted to have that kind of the air sucked out of the room feeling of hearing people sing for real. I think there's nothing more beautiful than just raw human voices. Like, a choir is so many people in sharp and flat, and it all comes together in this thing that feels very human and stirring. Stirringness comes from those little nasty mess ups. And I think that, like, auto-tune, Melodyne, and pitch shifting, and all those tools that are used all the time, and now our ears are used to them. I think that is so sad, because we're losing shape.
It was perfect transition into Bob Dylan. So, how many Bob Dylans do you have?
Well, the main one that I have a speaking one that is my favorite speaking one, and then I have a singing one that is my favorite singing one. My favorite speaking one is Bob hosting Theme Time Radio on Sirius XM.
You're listening to Theme Time Radio, Sirius XM. This week we're talking about flowers, rosebuds, hydrangeas, chrysanthemums. You got to clip them early. You put them in a vase. You got to make sure that you cut 1 inch below the top leaf that you want poking out of the top of that vase.
There's he had a radio show. It's probably the copy for it was written by somebody else, maybe his manager or something like that, with some Bob contribution. But I remember driving around in my dad's car in high school, and he had satellite radio, and I remember just being transfixed by that crazy voice. In high school, I loved Tom Waits and Man Man and Animal Collective.
Sure.
Like singers that had a kind of nastier tone, I guess. And Bob Dylan was always a little bit far off for me, a little bit inaccessible. I knew I was supposed to like it, and I knew that it was intellectual on some level, but I could never really hook into it. And my brothers got me. Maybe this is why the way I do it is the way that it is. When I got a record player when I was 16, my brothers got me some records from Tower Records in Opry Mills Mall in Nashville. And those records were Rainy Day Music by the Jayhawks, Being There by Wilco, Greatest Hits of Frank Zappa, which I think I got rid of pretty quickly, and The Times They Are A-Changing, Bob Dylan, a re-release of that.
Yeah.
And Times They Are A-Changing, Bob, I think is the one that most people have in their heads. And that's important, Bob. He's still left-wing, and he's still a protest singer and all this stuff. That's him running around the village with Susie Rotolo and all that stuff. But being the year that it was, that was 2005 when I heard The Times They Are A-Changing. There's beautiful stuff on that.
Yeah.
Boots of Spanish Leather, Edges Out, Girl from the North Country for me.
Boots of Spanish Leather is my favorite Bob Dylan song.
Oh, there we go. And then the next year, Modern Times came out, which is his 2006 record. And that's a different Bob. And he sounded crazy. I was thinking about Alicia Keys. He sings about Alicia Keys in the first 10 seconds of the album. Couldn't keep from crying. She was born in Hell's Kitchen. I was living down the line. And so I was just kind of triangulating Theme Time Radio, Modern Times, and The Times They Are A-Changing. And Bob has always been a funny comedy character to me. I didn't really get into his full discography until Homer was born.
Yeah.
And I was like building a crib in Nashville between my first and second seasons and being like, if I do this guy as a character on podcasts and stuff, I should probably know more than like a handful of albums. I should be a little bit more aware of the guy. And getting into his full discography, I think, is how I got a little bit more in touch with where it was all coming from and what I thought was funny about him and stuff. And I have shitty little offhand impressions that are less than 10 seconds long that are really stupid and that I barely think about, and they're just there and they just happen. And then I have certain impressions that I do that are like probably more closer to what Austin Butler went through to be in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, where there are people who are lifelong obsessions who I can't shake. And for me, like, if you see my hour, I'll do a bunch of little quick impressions, but there are some impressions that are in the context of me talking about this person I'm fascinated with for like 15, 20 minutes. And so you'll see me do a bunch of little impressions either at the front or the back end of the hour, but you'll also see me talk about Donald Trump for like 25 minutes or Joe Biden for like 25 minutes or Bob Dylan or longtime Rolling Stone editor David Frick or any of the people that I'm obsessed with. I have a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts and I do a lot of research and it just keeps building and building. And then, the journey that you take with Bob Dylan through many peaks and valleys in cultural relevance. I've always worried about peaking and going away, and I don't want that from my comedy career. Like, if I want to be anybody in comedy, I want to be Martin Short. I want to be funny forever. So I was like, who's somebody who has done this, aside from Martin Short? Who's somebody who has continued to make great stuff for forever because they like to do it? It's not always about being famous or killing. It's like, no, this is just, I make this kind of thing. This is what I do. And no one exemplifies that better than Bob Dylan.
When you were starting, you as a person who knows SNL, I'm sure you were, of not being pigeonholed as an impressionist.
Yeah.
Because I do think the show, though they need impressionists, sometimes looks down upon people who are like too good at impressions.
Oh.
Which is a theory that I have. But no, I'm sure you're aware of it. What did you then do to try to like not? Because you only have so much control.
I think feeling that Cold Open was kind of going to be my best showcase for my energy and myself. I think I got a sense of that early on just because that's the way that I was deployed in many important ways. And I was like, okay, well, then I need to get really good at this. That did kind of scare me off from pitching impressions elsewhere in the show. And I've always wanted to kind of be seen more as a comedian than a stand-up or an impressionist or any sub-label. And I was just really focused on showing range and wanting to show what I was more about outside of. I mean, when you're playing one of these loaded political impressions, you can kind of disappear behind the weight of this person's, cultural heft or whatever. And I wanted to make sure that I was spending the majority of my energy doing just sketches, like being good in other people's sketches or writing the kind of stuff I write with Andrew Dismukes, who, if I'm really, what I do at the show is write with Andrew Dismukes. That's what I spend 99% of my time doing.
Yeah.
I spend 1% of my time trying to be as funny as possible as Donald Trump. But that's the thing that happens at the very end of the week. The full first half of the week, I am pitching to Sarah or to Andrew or to Chloe or whoever's around and whoever we're like coming up with ideas with. I'm just trying to think of funny sketches. And when I first got to the show, I think to a fault, I ran away from just being impressions guy. I think might have been, looking back, I kind of wish that I had hugged myself more and been like, hey, it's really cool to be really good at something, and it's really cool to do something well. And if you can do this well, don't resent that. Like, let
the audience see that you're good at this thing.
Pitch your fastball.
Yeah.
Play the hits. This is probably my favorite thing about the show is just this advanced ropes course of like learning how I'm funny. I get to keep learning how I'm funny. And one of those lessons that I learned was like, I should do more impressions on the show. I should just be impressions guy. That's okay.
Well, I think what you've done is you've taken on what is in the SNL nerd community is called glue guy roles.
Ooh.
Phil Hartman was sort of the definitive glue guy, but then I think Cecily did that a lot, and Bill Hader famously did, which is like, I'm going to be the voiceover person. I'm going to be an announcer.
These are great names to be hearing sent my way. I mean, if people ask me a lot about hosts that I'm starstruck around, and I'm like, I'm not starstruck around hosts much. I'm starstruck around Cecily Strong.
Yeah.
I'm starstruck around Tina Fey. That's when I'm a little bit jelly.
I think people are fans of especially like Cecily and Bill Hader, which is people, they have fans and they know the things they do from the big things they do the show, but they also filled out the show to people who notice a lot. I think Cecily especially did all the voiceovers for the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to be. And I do think if you're often the voiceover person, you're often an announcer, you've done talk show host roles. I think if there's there's sketches.
Chloe Fineman too.
Yeah.
Chloe Fineman is somebody who you maybe don't realize always how seamlessly she is just in everything. Somehow. She's I mean, I try to be good at voices, but I just real quick want to say there are times when Chloe Fineman does something that I can't believe I just heard it. She's incredible. I just wanted to say that real quick. Because even stuff that people think is like a computer, like the way that she does the voices that are coming from a computer is incredible. I don't know. She's just
great.
Awesome.
But I think you're really good at two-camera announcer-y things. I was thinking of 3 sketches.
I love that stuff.
So it's like NFL on Fox, which is when you were playing Joe Buck or whatever, but
it's not really an impression.
But you have to essentially read a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's also but also from the season pilot announcement was that type of sketch where you're sort of just talking in a broadcaster-y voice, even though that's pilot.
Yeah.
And the other one that I think is probably the best example of it is your role in American Girl Doll XL.
Oh yeah,
because you come on and you are doing broadcaster voice.
Yeah, taking over the spokesman role. Stealing the steering wheel from Nikki.
Yeah.
That's funny that you brought that one up because I had a lot of fun doing that on set. I wasn't involved in the writing of that sketch. I just remember reading it at the table and being like, oh, I can't wait to do this if we film this. Because it's not just broadcaster voice. It was also the energy of taking over someone else's commercial. You have to see that in my eyes from the minute I'm already talking.
Yeah.
Because part of the fun of that is going to be the audience trust getting yanked away, and I know that's like going to be in the eyes and stuff.
Because there's going to be a second where you're so much of an announcer on the show and just in general that they will forget that was Nikki's role in the sketch.
Yeah, that's like the bit mission right there, right?
Yeah.
So I love broadcasters. I think that's maybe the first impressions that I did as a kid was like if I was watching Cartoon Network all day, they would also be playing like makeup commercials because it's, that's who's watching Cartoon Network too, is the mom folding clothes, right? So like I remember memorizing full infomercials as a kid, and I would just do these to my parents' friends at parties or Bible studies or something, where I would do a full 4-minute infomercial for, do you remember it was like a carrier that would roll out. It was basically like a tackle box, but it was for like household objects. Anyway, I remember, it's dim in my mind, but I remember it rolls up and it rolls up and rolls out and displays everything at your fingertips. And if you call now, like it was one of those types of things. And I love the stilted way that people talk on television.
Yeah.
And I'm not a sports guy, but I get assigned a lot of sports stuff. I don't know anything about anyone that I'm talking about ever, but I get assigned a lot of sports stuff. And, I was in the same room with my 2 older brothers and my dad watching basketball or watching football. And I heard these guys talking, but I was reading a dragon novel or I was playing Game Boy. I was not wanting to be a part of the football, but I heard these guys talking like that all the time. Oh, all right. Well, while we take a moment, let's talk about Thursdays. Just got crazier. So like that's where that stuff comes from, is I've just heard voices like that all my life. And then I also come from a lot of teachers and preachers in my family. It just seems like everything in my life has always been oriented around the oldest dude, like of that church or something like that, or that college. And so I'm used to a specific type of male authority, of like a soft power. You know what I mean? Like a gentle educator or a broadcaster or whatever that is. And I think that's why I can do that.
The other thing you get on the air consistently is singing, obviously. You're
sure, yeah.
Lake Beach. The jingle pitch I always like. I think that song's really good.
Thank you.
And then obviously the most catchy song is the Family Meetings, the one where you and I Watch in the Corner.
Yeah.
Do you write that hook?
Yeah, I wrote that with Dan Bulla and Ego, the brilliant, important, beautiful, and hilarious Ego Wodum, who we don't talk about enough.
I'm talking about it all the time.
You better.
Well, once you're on the show, it's talking about it all the time.
I mean, I love Ego, and I've always wanted to work with Ego. And one day we were sitting around on the set of a pre-tape, and we were just being like, what's something we can do together? And we didn't know each other super well at that point, but I think I was dressed like Michael Imperioli. We were doing the Black Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
This is a few seasons ago. And I love 70s and 80s R&B. And I was like, oh, you know what would be really fun? So I've always wanted to do a sketch of this Michael McDonald and Patti LaBelle song called On My Own. And it has a great music video. So the family meeting was an homage to the Michael McDonald and Patti LaBelle music video for On My Own. And that's where it started. We wrote it as a pre-tape that it would be like the parents showing the children a music video. And it's a divorce R&B song. It is a grown-up R&B story. You know what I mean? It's not even that sexy. Yeah. It's more just like a lament. And we did it at the table, and they called us into a meeting after table, and we're like, let's figure out a way to make that a live sketch. And I was like, it's a movie. I really don't see it any other way. And they were like, well, you did do it just now. You performed it. So you can do that. And that was the first time I learned that lesson of like, if I can do this at the table, I can do it on the show. I can do it live. It's a very bizarre sketch, really, like just compared to a lot of the places that we usually go. It's very strange. I mean, we've got Travis Kelce as a guy named Sucre Wolodarski.
There's a lot of moves.
Playing Streets of Rage 2 on a Game Gear and wearing a Kappa suit. I mean, it's pretty silly. But when people ask me what's my favorite sketch on the show, it's that. I mean, that really is my favorite thing I've ever done on the show.
Did you play guitar live?
And I played guitar live. I
literally can't remember if anyone has done it other than like
Fred was
Oh, yes.
always plugged in. Like I said, I love the way that things sound when a person is making music and the little mess ups and stuff. And you could always kind of tell that Fred's characters were playing the guitar live. But one time when I met him at a party, I think I asked him of like, maybe I had just had a prop guitar in a sketch and I was like, I wanted to learn the song and be plugged in. He was like, you can ask for that. And I was like, okay. So every time you had a prop guitar in the sketch, he was like, I was plugged in, I was live. I was in the mix. I learned the song. And I was like, I'm enough of a musician that I can do that. And so that's one of my little SNL challenges I've set for myself is that if I'm playing guitar, I should play guitar. And that is a dinky little solo. If you can't play that solo, then you know.
Gotta do it live. Do you have a story that captured your relationship or dynamic with Lorne Michaels?
Wow. Lorne. I love Lorne. A story. I shut it down with him at the party, at the last one, at the Ariana party. I ended up at his table, and it was just me, Marcelo, and Andrew, and we were there until the lights came on. I really like Lorne. I really like that I get to talk to somebody who has he has a personal connection with thousands of people throughout show business history. And so that's something that, as somebody who's always reading like books about entertainment history, that makes getting to know him in my own way so fun, because it's like he can talk about like where he was when like when John Lennon was shot. Like I can hear about that night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I can talk to him about like when this person hosted in 1998. You know what I mean? Like it's like I have all of these things that I'm just interested in, and it's more than likely that he has a take on it that is informed by being there. You know what I mean? And so that's really fun. If we're trying to like hone in on one specific thing, I think that a lot of people go back to just the first time they were in his office and met him.
We covered.
Which has been covered plenty. One time when I was doing Bob Dylan for the first time live on the show, he had some thoughts, and he had resisted that impression many times before. And this was finally a time when it was relevant, because there was a Timothée Chalamet movie about it. And I had made one too many references within the sketch that were to things that Bob Dylan has actually tweeted about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was talking about a Lon Chaney movie from 1927, which he had recently tweeted about. And like Dick Powell and stuff like that. And he found me in the hallway and he was like, Lon Chaney, Dick Powell, our audience is like 9 years old. You know that, right? You can't be talking about Lon Chaney. Find something else. He was like trying to impress upon me, like, can't Bob Dylan talk about Sabrina Carpenter or at the very least, like someone from this century?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if it's from the last 30 years,
yeah,
give me something. And that was a really important lesson for me, was like, hey, I can do the thing that I did with Donald Trump, where I can have Bob Dylan talking about some more modern stuff.
You're the only person I know who does the modern Lorne voice. Everyone still kind of does Dr. Evil, but you do.
Can you tell that my approach to impressions has a specific methodology? Yeah, that's when I met him. And I think that people tend to do the impression of these people at the moment that they met them,
yeah.
Right? With a lot of people's, Donald Trump, for instance, they're doing like 2000s Trump when he was at every Diddy party and New York social event. You know what I mean? Like that's like the Trump that a lot of people do, is because that's when he was like, really on TV the last time.
Yeah.
And so I like to do things updated and current and just try to find something a little bit different. And yeah, even with my Lorne, I do Lorne the moment that I met him, in 2021.
Darrell Hammond was on the show 14 seasons. That is the potential of an impressionist. I do feel like you have uncommon, like, workman-like quality to how you discuss being on SNL. You're like, this is my job. I'm on SNL. It's not... You're able to sort of...
I came in with a child and a wife, and I think that that's different than a lot of people do.
How do you... Can you imagine just sort of just being a person who's on the show forever?
I really enjoy it, but I don't know. I more think about sustainability and balance is kind of what I'm thinking about when it comes to the show. And I know that there will be a point where I think it happens with anybody anywhere where it's like you might notice like slippage or your work suffering because of what you're of life that you're not living or something like that. That hasn't happened yet for me. I literally kind of feel like I'm just getting started, and I do hope that I get to do it for as long as people want me to. You know what I mean? I can't believe that it's already been 5 years because it feels like my second or third, because just the amount of lessons that I've had to learn is nuts. When there was that big discussion about Nepo babies last year, I've met a lot of I met a lot of them, and those people as children had a context for what the entertainment world was, and I had to assemble all of that on the fly. The Church of the Nazarene, the denomination that I come from, was firmly anti-show business. My grandparents never stepped foot in a movie theater. So movie theaters were the devil for so long. And my parents' first movie that they saw in the theater, I think, was Aladdin, Disney's Aladdin. It was the 90s. So they were like in their 40s, maybe 30s, 40s. They did that. So I come from a world that was just very sealed off from show business. And I always wanted to be Conan O'Brien or Tina Fey or Fred Armisen or one of these people that I saw, thankfully, on NBC, which was a thing I could get and I had access to. And so I've had to build all this on my own, and that's been an exhausting journey. And I fully get the ease with which some of the people in entertainment can step into the role because their parents were able to show them the way. And I had to, I didn't have access to that kind of guidance. I'm learning it all right now. And I'm thirsty for knowledge, and I'm a repository of a lot of dumb bullshit. And I'm really enjoying getting to add to the pile. And so I really feel like I'm sort of I don't know. I'm very much still in my academic career at SNL. I feel like I am still learning and assembling the person I'll be for the rest of my life. And I could probably do this for a lot longer, but we'll see. Because at some point I will probably have another newborn, or I'll have a 12-year-old or something, and that'll make me go, okay, where is my energy best served?
Yep.
Like, am I still able to serve SNL in the way that I know is demanded? I wonder. So far, I'm doing everything okay, and all my friends tell me I'm doing okay at parenting and SNL. So I'm like, well, we're balanced right now.
Yeah.
Let's see how far this goes.
So now it's time for the final segment of the show.
Yeah.
It's called Laughing Round. It's like a lightning round. But
Is this the longest one you've ever done?
No, but SNL is a thing I could talk about for forever.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. Every aspect of it. I have another 3 hours of questions I could
Of course.
As a person who cares about the process of comedy, it is only that. It is a place where every aspect of it, and like Prospect as it interacts with psychology and all these things.
Yeah.
And it's just like a bunch of people doing it at the same time. It's fascinating.
It's
and not
crazy.
even for the way, all the ways that there are documentaries about. It's also just sort of fascinating on a very practical level.
Yeah, they also, it was a little bit the Disney vault for a long time, and now there's this, I think it's maybe the influence of new media, but there's a little bit more of like, well, what is happening in there? And like, you know, we're kind of, from time to time, getting to show and share some of the stuff.
Just like professional wrestling in that way.
Really?
Shout out to Anne. Yeah, I'll explain later. We truly have gone too long for me to explain the nature of modern kayfabe. Do you have a favorite joke?
Favorite joke. This isn't really a joke, but I feel like it's really important to me. Non sequitur is really important to me. And it's one of the great sort of uncharted oceans really, because there's nothing to chart. Usually it's a dead end. I love that stuff. My granddad, on my dad's side, my dad's dad, Talmadge, was this, for most of my life, this terrifying, just massive presence of a preacher man. And he had such a weird sense of humor, and he loved absurdists. He loved non sequitur. He would boldly do comedy to a child that a child couldn't possibly appreciate.
Can you think of any of it?
Yeah, he would like pick me up and just say, "Which would you rather be, or an Easter egg?" It was like stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was like stuff that made no sense. It was like, he was like, "You want to hear a joke?" And I was like, "Sure." He's like, "Where was Moses when the lights were out?" And I was like, "I don't know." He was in the dark. It was always stuff like that where you're like, the way that, and it's so alty.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
like Bob and Ray.
it is. It's the foundation of a type of comedy that is so non-commercial.
Yeah.
And I loved it because it was this joke that he was in on that I was not. I think that had a mystery to it that was really delicious. So when I started to actually put those together, like what's happening there, it was pretty fun. And then just a joke.
Oh, that's a good.
I mean, that's the best
That's a
I
great
can
answer.
tell you.
That's like also revealing about all the other things we talked about, which is usually not the case with that question. Do you have a short story of an interaction with a legendary comedian, living or dead, you're willing to share with us? I don't know if you meet any.
Yes,
At your job.
I do. I mean, so many of the times that I was hanging out with these legendary people was in the middle of the night, where I'm not really imprinting a whole lot of memories. I'm more just like trying to, pick up pieces of armor, like I'm playing Skyrim or something like that. But I think I can go ahead and say this. I think I teed this up and then chickened out at the very beginning of the episode. It was when Mike Myers came and he was playing Elon Musk one morning. I was walking into work and I got a call from an unknown number, and I answered it, and it was Mike Myers. And he was like, "How do you do Elon Musk?" Because he was still kind of forming the character, and he was going to do it that night. And I found myself doing a goofy South African Bond villain to Dr. Evil, like to a guy who does this all the time. And he wanted my input, which I was just kind of like found kind of confusing, but also it was such a moment for me.
Yeah.
And I remember doing it for him, and I remember what he did was not what I was doing. But I hope that a little bit of what I did helped him towards his own instincts. In that moment, he needed to do what his own instinct was and not another comedian's. And maybe he just wanted to hear what I was doing because I had done it at another table or something, and he heard it. He was like, "Do that a little bit more for me." So I hope I helped him somehow, but that was a crazy moment. And getting to know Dana, I've had more time with Dana over the years, and getting to know him was really, really, really special for me. Just because I really like him as a guy. You know what I mean? I don't know how much else to say other than I have been blessed to just be around these people, but the moments where you connect with people as dudes, that's this other thing that happens and kind of it's made me more confident. Martin Short, anytime I've been around Martin Short has been incredible. Well, I'm here. I've been walking around trying to do Martin Short.
That's good.
We can start. I am in love with Martin Short. There are parties that people have come over to my house that just become Martin Short YouTube parties because he's got so many great late night appearances, and my moments that I've had with him have been really, really special. And one time, this wasn't a read. This was more just something I needed to hear. It was just one time he was just like, you know what your problem is? I'm not going to do the voice anymore because I'm not good enough at it. But he's like, you know what your problem is? You just don't have confidence. You have all the other stuff that you need, and you're great. but you're just going to need to work on finding that confidence. He said that to me like my first or second season.
Wow.
And he was right. I mean, I have a lot of swag when I'm doing Trump or certain other types of things, but finding the confidence to really bust it open for people and be spectacular the way you need to be to develop a relationship with fans and be an SNL star. I don't always have the confidence to really stand by my comedy and get it out. And the Ariana episode was an episode where I really kind of felt confident and really went into it with a tremendous amount of confidence because I knew I was up to the task. And I've always had Martin Short's words floating around in my head to just kind of and Dana told me a similar thing when I first started because I had a phone call with him before I ever met him. I just asked for his number because he had a similar start to me where he had a lot of SNL responsibilities right up front because it was that big cast wipe and it was like, Dana, you're this guy. And he did Church Lady and Broccoli on his first episode. He was in the Cold Open, all that stuff. So he was one of the only people that I could talk to. And he said a similar thing where when he first started, he had a friend tell him, the time for audaciousness is now. If there's ever been a time to be audacious, this is the moment. And I've spent years wondering how to be audacious, really, and what that actually means for me. And I think I've used the young dad thing as an excuse to take my time and bide my time and learn and listen and build up that confidence. But I think it's I'm having the most fun I've ever had at the show lately because I think I have earned that confidence now. I think it's been built by reps, you know.
What was your SNL 50 like? Who did you hang out with? Who's the most surprising person that you found yourself having?
I think SNL 50, for me, the big one was Beck Bennett. I had just not met Beck Bennett.
This is crazy.
What?
This guy, Beck Bennett.
Well, he's the greatest living sketch comedian. We should be talking about Beck Bennett more.
Well, literally next week, it's going to be all Beck Bennett on this podcast. But tell me, so Sarah had the same answer. So what was Beck Bennett like to you? Let's go viral twice. We're talking about how Beck Bennett is the greatest guy.
Beck Bennett is the greatest guy. I think he is. He's got to be in the top 10, at least in my top 5 of SNL performers. But just his range and his drive to do the comedy he thought was funny. You can smell that in all of his pieces. He's a risk taker. And just the way that he could do the Mike Pence and Vladimir Putin kind of like, you know, stuff that we're going to do, the way that he could do that so well, but then also be like a little boy in lederhosen in makeup asking for chocolates and stuff like that. Like I'm a little bit missing that. I'm a little bit missing the willingness to go out there in lederhosen and sing in a high voice about eating chocolate. And he's just so ready to do whatever is the funniest thing in the moment and capable. And I came in on the season that he had just stopped working. And I think I had more or less inherited a fraction of his clients. You know what I mean? When he left the company. And so those were big shoes to fill. And I remember hearing a lot of people mourn his absence because it's like, this thing needs a rich buffoon. And like, I play a lot of one percenters on the show, but I'm more like, I think what I'm more gifted at playing is like erudite or inscrutable or something like that. I'm not as good at that Beck Bennett, Will Ferrell, douchey, loser kind of thing. And it's what a lot of the greatest comedy is made out of. And he, like a music analogy would be like he's one of the greatest like lead guitarists or something like that. It's like a style that is everywhere, but there's only a few people who do it as good as he does. And so I don't know. It was, and also he's a great man. He's a good person. Watching him interact with production staff and crew members and other cast members in the couple of episodes that we've shared together, I wasn't just jealous of his talent. I was jealous of his demeanor and his esprit de coeur and decorum. And it's like the things that I wish I had that this man so effortlessly exemplifies. There's not even words in American English for what they are. Like, it's sort of the same thing of when I get to work with Martin Short, and I would put back on that level too, where I'm like, you are funny now at this moment when everyone's so crabby and hungry. You're like, and the way that you're roasting, the way that you're getting out your negative energy is becoming a positive thing. That's the other thing. That's incredible. And I've only seen that happen on sets with certain people, and they're big names. George Clooney, you know what I mean? Tom Hanks. Like Beck Bennett has the on-set vibe of Oscar winners that I have had the time to spend with. So it's not just that I wish I was as funny as him. It's that I wish I behaved the way that he does in life.
We're going to make him cry again. That's our goal.
I would love to make him cry. I'm a good crier too.
We'll send it right to him. All right. What's something that people think is comedy that you think isn't?
Podcasts.
That's fine. I don't think this is comedy.
Well, this is great because we're actually talking about something. There's a lot of podcasts that are the main comedy that people listen to, and I just think that they're going to be at the pearly gates looking at how much time they spent listening to unverified facts be bandied about. I would say that most of the comedy that is hitting right now is comedy that does not connect with me. And you could take from that what you want. But something that I think is...
That's an answer. You already nailed it. That's good.
I would say most comedy. That's the other thing is like, I don't think you should like most comedy. I think comedy is this like, it's not even like food where when people ask me who my favorite comedians are, I can really only name like 5 or 6 names off the top of my head. But it's not all of comedy.
No.
You should really only be gravitating towards the voices that speak to you. And if a lot of voices speak to you, I'm like, honey, you got to start narrowing down some interests. Like, you need hobbies. Yeah, it's too wide open. You're gonna get that's too much influence.
This is something I can talk about for too long.
Yeah.
But more on this on
Podcast.
Comedy Book by Jesse Dave Fox, and the idea of comedy taste. But just sketch that's never worked, but you'll go to your grave being like, I was right there wrong.
Probably David Frick. So David Frick is this guy who's in every rock doc. He is a journalist, rock journalist. He has an amazing voice and just a really fun train of thought that feels like reading a magazine feature, the way that he speaks. I've met him I've met him in New York a number of times, and I just think he's the coolest dude in the world. And I love his voice. And when he pops up in the Wilco documentary, I Am Trying to Break Your Heart, he is so different from every single talking head that has talked about the band Wilco throughout the whole thing. And it's so refreshing. He looks like a Ramone. He's got like a little bit of like a punk bowl cut and like some cool glasses. And he's just got this other way of speaking about Jeff Tweedy, who's another one of my favorite dudes, that is just so entertaining to me. And I've watched that documentary a bunch of times. And so I just love that voice, and me, and I keep talking about Dan Bola. Dan Bola and I conceived of a way to do David Frick, which was we're going to make it an original character.
Yes.
It was a piece of advice I got from Dana Carvey early on, which was if you do a voice and nobody is like, it doesn't matter that it's an impression of someone, just make it a character. Just give him.
Cecily was really good at that.
Yeah, she was. She's doing probably, Joan Crawford from some specific
or
thing.
like a Real Housewife.
Or a Real Housewife or something. It doesn't matter who she's doing an impression of. She makes it into original character, and it suddenly makes sense. So I thought that would work. So me and Dan had Peter Chick, who Peter Chick was a a rock journalist who was there to talk about, technology or something on Weekend Update. And it's just the game of the thing is the overwrought and boring way that a lot of rock journalism tries to sum up what music is. And it's always like, all right, what is a basketball? Because a record, it's physical media. It's not like a basketball. What is a basketball? I go to a basketball store. I buy a crate of 200. I like that you like this. I take it home. I get my crowbar. I wedge the box open and I pick it up. What does it feel like? It's sharp. It's wet. It's baking hot. I know that if I were to pick up this basketball and throw it at the hoop, I might get, 11 points. Like, it's more about trying to mimic the way that a smart person dumbs down their train of thought. I don't know. It's asking so much of the person that it is supposedly supposed to delight. And it's some of the hardest that he and I have ever laughed in an office. And Andrew Dismukes and I talk a lot about, like, why do we do this? We do this because we get to have that moment where we are in an office pitching on something that maybe won't see the light of day, but it is the hardest that we have ever laughed. And it's in the pursuit of broadcast ready broadcast ready sketch comedy. But just the entreating certain ideas for as long as we do is so fun.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to do something for you.
Sure.
So I have a Philips One blade.
Okay.
And you wrote an article during the SNL 50 coverage that Vulture, I'm a Vulture reader. You wrote an article called SNL Needs More Mustaches, I think.
Oh, yeah. I forgot I wrote that.
And
it's a pretty long piece, too.
Yeah,
it was like an actual. I really thought that one out.
You were thinking about how Dan Aykroyd, had a mustache for a lot of his time, and Lorne wants us to be trimmed up and clean shaven so we can play different characters. And I just thought that you might like to watch me prepare myself to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Lorne, this is for you. I know that mustaches are a thing of the past, and I need to prepare my face for potentially wearing a fun prosthetic one in character, So this is it, This is you saw a little bit of the real me, and now you're seeing the me that's for TV. I'm getting TV ready here, and I'm finally ready to go back to the show. The vacation facial hair is gone, and there's a little bit on your table here.
Immediately you've evaporated.
Have I?
There's no one.
Do I read different?
I can imagine you putting on a wig.
Yeah.
And being.
Well, you can't.
Anybody.
Yeah, Donald Trump couldn't have a dirty little Ned Flanders mustache. Okay, I can't. I want to, but that's just not in the cards for the guys I play on the show. Dads sometimes have full beards or no beards these days. It's not just one thing. But eagle-eyed viewers can see there have been some times on the show where it's been my real mustache, maybe in a pre-tape. Now your turn.
Oh, and Mike shave my mustache. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.